Hello and welcome to yet another tutorial by Davies Media Design. My name is Michael Davies, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to design a business card in GIMP. This is a tutorial I did a few years ago, but it wasn't getting the best reviews, so I decided to redo it and include a little bit more information and to improve the design as well. That way you guys can optimize your designs for print and really just create a more modern design. So here you'll see the final design that I did here. This is just one side of the business card. I'll show you how to do both sides today. And I'll be using GIMP version 2.10 release candidate 1 for this. So if you're watching and you're using an older version of GIMP, you can still do most of what's in here. And if you're watching using the brand new GIMP 2.10 stable release, which at the time of this video hasn't come out yet, you should be able to do all of the things I'm showing you in this video. But before we begin, I want to direct you guys over to my website at daviesmediadesign.com/tutorials. You can find plenty of GIMP video and text tutorials on here, and there's also a link to our Patreon page. You can also enroll in our GIMP photo editing course from beginner to pro photo retoucher, and it's been designated a highest rated course, so thank you to everybody who's rated the course and enrolled. And I mentioned our Patreon page. There's actually a video on here, a live stream that I did earlier today, and it shows you how to set up CMYK color profiles and soft proofing in GIMP. And I show you both in GIMP 2.10 and 2.8.22 because they are slightly different, but this live stream actually goes with the tutorial I'm showing you guys right now. So I do recommend going to our Patreon page and checking this out. You can check it out for free. It's not one of the paid pieces of content. But while you're here, we would love it if you guys could support us. Maybe check out some of the awesome rewards you can get from supporting us on Patreon. And then I'm using a template from moo.com. You guys can use whatever business card template you want, but the reason I chose this is that if I scroll down here, you'll see that this gives us a bleed area, a trim area, and a safe area. But then if I click to download the JPEG, it also tells us what kind of color profile they're using. So this is coded GRACOL 2006. And I'm gonna show you guys briefly how we get this set up in GIMP. But again, I do recommend you come over to our Patreon page because I go into a lot more depth with the CMYK color profile, why you wanna set it up, and how it affects GIMP's RGB color profile while you're designing. Okay, so without further ado, here we are with our business card design, and I used the GEOTECH industry logo that I designed in a previous tutorial, and I'll include a link to that in the description, but we're going to be using this design throughout this tutorial. You guys can use your own design if you want, but if you want to know how I did, the maze background design here and the fonts and everything, go ahead and check that tutorial out. I'll start by going to File, New, and we will create a brand new image here. And I'm going to change this to inches. If I come back over to our template, I'll hit back here. So this says right here that the bleed area is 3.66 inches by 2.16 inches. You guys again can use whatever size you want. Some of them are 3.75 by 2.25. But whatever you do, just make the size of your composition the largest size that it needs to be, which in this case is the bleed area. And this is going to be the area outside of the trim area, so there's a machine that's going to come down and trim these business cards, and what the bleed area does is it just makes sure that none of the colors get cut off or that none of the colors stop before the edge of the business card and create an ugly white line or whatever color it is paper that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and set the size of our business card to this bleed area, 3.66 by 2.16. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 3.66, hit tab, and set this to 2.16. Then you want to click on the advanced options here, and under X and Y resolution, make sure both of these are set to 300 pixels per inch. Here's the unit right here. So 300 pixels per inch. This is going to ensure that the resolution is high enough for a higher print quality basically. If you're using this for web, you can set it to 72 pixels per inch, but I do recommend 300 pixels per inch. And then you can change the precision of this if you want more data within the design. Then go ahead and change the precision to 32-bit floating point. And I'll keep the rest of the settings the way they are and click OK. And so here we are with our base layer, the background, and my layers panel just happens to be down here for this tutorial. Your guys's might be up here. But the first thing I'm going to do, and we can call this the front of our business card, I'm going to come over here to our main logo that we designed in that last tutorial, and you guys can use whatever logo you've designed or whatever image you want to use. And I'm going to go to Edit, Copy Visible, and then I'll come over to our main composition, and I'll go ahead and hit Control V, and that'll paste this as a floating selection layer, and you can see that over here in the Layers panel. I'm going to go ahead and click on this icon here to create a new layer, and I'm going to double click on this and just rename this logo. So now what I need to do is scale this logo so that it fits into our composition here. And so I'll grab my scale tool from my toolbox here and go ahead and click on your image, and that's going to bring up the scale dialog box. And I'm just going to lock this chain icon here and then click and drag, and that's going to ensure that this scales proportionately. And I'm just going to scale this until basically it fits within the boundaries of our business card. And because GIMP does tend to lose quality when you scale multiple times, I want to try and get this right the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit scale, and that now has scaled our logo. And I'll grab our alignment tool, go ahead and click on our composition here, and then just hit align relative to center of target, and then align relative to middle of target, and that's just going to align our logo on the composition here. So we can go ahead and call this one side of the business card, and I'm going to go to File, New to create a new side. And I'll change this to inches to make sure that we have the right dimensions set here, and I'll click OK. And I'm going to get into a little bit more details with this image in terms of being able to preview it for printers with the CMYK preview and all that good stuff. So I'm actually going to set the guides now, and I'll grab my move tool to start doing this. And I'll just start by grabbing 4 guides here. And I'm just doing one for each horizontal and vertical for each side of our business card. And so now I need to figure out how far these guides need to be from the edge of the page in order for the trim lines and the safe area to be in the right spot. And so I'll come up here to this page that tells us our bleed area. So the trim size is 0.16 inches smaller than the width and the height of the bleed area, which means that our guides need to be 0.08 inches from each side of the business card here. And so we do need to convert that to pixels, and I'm going to come over here and type in 0.08 inches. And you'll see that that converts to about 7.68 pixels here. So I'll come over here back to GIMP, grab our alignment tool, and I'm going to click on one of these guides. And here under Distribute, under Offset X, because this isn't going to do a decimal point, I'm just going to go ahead and round this up to 8. So we want this 8 pixels from the left edge here. So I'll go ahead and hit Distribute. And you can see now this has been distributed so that it's 8 pixels from the left edge, or approximately 0.08 inches. And then I'll come over here, click on this, and I'm going to change the offset X here to actually a negative value. And then I'll click Distribute Right Edges of Targets. And then I'll go ahead and set our right bleed area guide here. And then I'm going to come up here to the top and click on this top guide here. And then go ahead and change the offset Y to 8 and hit that arrow. By that arrow, I mean the Distribute Top Edges of Targets arrow. And then I'm going to come down here, click on my bottom guide, change this to -8, and then click on the Distribute Bottoms of Targets button right here. All right, and so now we have our bleed area set, and I can come back over to our Moo business card template page, and now we have what's called the safe area. And so this is 0.34 by 0.84, or if we come up and compare it to these values up here, it's a 0.32 inch difference, which means we need to cut that in half, and it'll be a 0.16 inch difference. So we can come over here and go ahead and convert this. And so 0.16 inches is a little over 15 pixels. If you really want to play it safe, you can set it to 16 pixels. So we'll go ahead and pull out 4 more guides here. So there's our guides. Go ahead and click here and change this value to 16. And then go ahead and hit Distribute Left Edges of Targets. Come over here, click on this one, and hit Distribute Right Edges of Targets for this guide. And make sure to change this to negative, by the way. And then come up here, click on this top one, and then click Distribute Top Edges of Targets. And then go ahead and change this to negative, and click on this guide here, and go ahead and click Distribute Bottoms of Targets. All right, so now we have our bleed and safe areas marked out. So basically all this is saying is you want your design to go all the way to the edge of your composition here, and definitely past the first set of guides here. And then for all of your important graphics, you want all of that inside of the safe area or the innermost set of guides here. Once we set that up, I'm going to go ahead and come back over to our logo layer here. And I'm going to hide all of the text information, and I just want to copy this background right here. So what I'll do is I'll come over to Edit, Copy Visible, and then come back over to our business card composition and go to Edit, Paste. And now that's painted our maze background onto our business card composition by itself, and it's added it as a floating selection layer. So go ahead and click on this layer and then click to create a new layer. And then I'll grab my scale tool again and just click and drag. And I don't have to hold anything because this is the chain icon is locked over here. And I'm just resizing this so that it fits inside of our composition a little better. And once I've got that ready, I'll go ahead and hit scale. And then I can grab my alignment tool if I want this centered. I'll change these values to 0 and go ahead and click on that layer and just hit align relative to the center of target and the middle of target, and that'll center our image. Now what I want to do is I want to create this effect here where only the corner of our business card is showing that maze design. And so what I'll do is go ahead and create a new layer, and I'll name this text background, and I'll change the fill to white and click OK. And then what I need to do is hide just a corner of our text background layer because I want that bottom maze layer to show through. So right click on this and go to Add Layer Mask, and under Initialize Layer Mask 2 I'll choose White Full Opacity and click Add. And then I'm going to grab my lasso tool and I'm going to start up here near the top, but I don't want this all the way at the top because I do want this to kind of stop up here. And so I'll go ahead and click on here. Then I'm going to hold my Control key, and this is going to allow me to move my line in increments of 15 degrees. And so if you watch, you'll see it snapping every 15 degrees, and that'll help me create more even lines, and it also makes it easier later on down the road when we need to draw over these lines again. So right now I'm at 0 degrees, so I can go to 15, 30, 45, and once I hit 45 degrees I'll just bring this all the way down until it comes off of the composition here, and then I'll go ahead and click to create a node, and you can go ahead and release the Control key after you've created a node out here, and then I'll go ahead and create another node right here. And then I'll drag my last node over to that first point we created, that first node, and go ahead and click on that node to join everything together. Now once you've done that, go ahead and hit the Enter key, and that's going to create a selection area in the shape we just drew. And make sure you're still on your layer mask here, and then go ahead and come over here and choose your color as black and click OK. And go ahead and grab your bucket fill tool and fill in this layer mask with that black. And now you'll see that a corner of our business card has been revealed here, a corner of our maze layer, and it creates a really cool effect. So I'll go ahead and hit select none. So the next thing we want to do is bring in that logo for the top right corner here. So I'll come back over here to original logo composition. I'll go ahead and unhide everything so that everything shows up here. Now the one issue is that this is a white background and this is some white lettering here. So we definitely want to make this lettering black. But the issue with that is if you come over here, these are no longer text layers. So I can't just highlight this and make it black. But there is a way to do it in GIMP. All you gotta do is grab your text tool, click on that text layer, and it's gonna bring up a confirm text editing dialog box. And basically this is asking us to either create a new layer to edit the text on its own new layer, or to go ahead and edit the text where it is, but get rid of any effects that are currently on this text layer. I'm going to go with this first option, and you'll see that our drop shadow that was on this text has now disappeared. And now what I can do is highlight this text here, come over here to color, and change the font to black, and click OK. And so now our GEOTECH is black. And then I actually want to do the same thing for industry, and when I click on it, the same thing's going to happen here. So go ahead and click edit, and the drop shadow will be removed from this text, and then I can go ahead and change the color of this to black, click OK. Yeah, make sure you have all the letters selected, otherwise it won't change the color of that letter. And then I'm going to do the reverse of what we did for the background layer, so I'll hide the maze overlay in the background layer there, and I'll go to Edit, Copy Visible, and I'll come over here to our business card composition and make sure you're not on the layer mask layer here, otherwise it won't work. So go ahead and just click on the regular layer here and then hit Control V to paste, and then go ahead and click create a new layer, and that will add this logo onto its own layer. And then grab the scale tool and click on that layer, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to percent because I know what percentage I want to scale this down to. I'm going to scale this to 25%. And that's going to bring it over here. You can click on the middle of this to bring it into view here. So I'm going to put it right about here and then click scale. And then I can go ahead and grab my move tool and reposition this if I want, wherever I want it. So that looks pretty good to me. And I want to crop this layer so that it's not so far outside of the text in our logo. So I'll go to layer and crop to content, and that'll shrink our layer down to the size of our logo. And then I'm going to grab a guide here and pull this guide until it aligns with the far right side of this logo, and I'll place that there. And the reason I have this here is because I want to align the rest of my text in my business card to where this logo is. So now before we go any further, I just want to show you guys what I was talking about with the CMYK color previews. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about them and why they're important because I did that on the Patreon page. So again, visit my Patreon page if you want to learn more details as to why we're doing this, and also how to set up color profiles in GIMP. But essentially what I need to do is preview these colors thus far to see how they would look if I printed them on a printer, because right now we're working in GIMP, and GIMP is an RGB space, whereas printers are usually a CMYK space. And actually, if you'll remember, I'll come back over to our Moo business card template page, and I'll click on this JPEG here. This actually uses a color profile called Coded GRACOL 2006. And so we can actually preview what this will look like, what this business card will look like with that color profile. And that's going to help us come up with better colors for our actual print, and it also keeps our expectations realistic because the colors aren't going to be different when we get the business cards. So what I can do, and this is after I've downloaded the color profiles, again, check out our Patreon page on how to do that. But I'll go ahead to Edit, Preferences, come over to Color Management, and then you'll see an area here called Soft Proofing. And this is going to be the color profile that we want to use when we're proofing our image colors. And this is actually the same color profile right here as was stated on that page I just showed you. But you guys probably don't have this option here yet. So go ahead and watch that Patreon tutorial, and then once you've installed the color profile, go to Select Color Profile from Disk. And let's say, for example, you downloaded your color profile to your downloads page. You can go ahead and click on this folder right here, the end user folder, and then this end user folder, and then CMYK. And you'll see the different CMYK color profiles you can choose from. And then right here is the color profile that we want. So go ahead and click open. And now this is set as our soft proofing profile, color profile. And I'll go ahead and click OK. And now here's the reason why we want this. So I can go to View, Color Management, and Proof Colors. And when I click on that, you guys might have noticed a slight change in the colors here. But what you're seeing in front of you is what our business card is going to look like on the business card itself. So it's going to look slightly different than how it looks on our computer screen. And this color proof preview essentially lets us see how the final product is going to look. And I can always come over to View, Color Management, and click Proof Colors again to turn off that preview mode. But I'm actually going to keep that on because I do think it helps us keep realistic expectations while we work. Okay, so moving on from that, I will choose my text tool here, and I'm going to set my font to Nexa Bold. So here's Nexa Bold right here, and this is a font I downloaded, and I'll include a link to that font download in the description. And I'll come over here to size, and I'm going to change this to 85, and then click on my business card composition here and put the caps lock key on, and I'll just go ahead and type my name, so Michael Davies. And I do want this to be aligned with this guide right here. And I'm using my move tool, and then I'm using the arrows on my keyboard to align the right side of this letter to this guide. And then I'll select my text tool again and change the size this time to 55. And then I'll click on my font here and change the font to Nexa Light. And click on my canvas again, and with the caps lock key still on, I'll type owner, founder, or this is whatever position you want to type. And then I'll grab my move tool and move this so that it aligns with my guide here. And I can use my arrow keys to get that far right side of the letters aligned with this guide. And then I'll grab my text tool, change the size of my text to 30. And now I want to type my phone numbers, and these are completely fictitious numbers, so I'll just type 555, 555, and then 2345. Grab my move tool and put these in place. And I want a second phone number here. Let's say you've got a cell phone and an office phone. So I just went ahead and duplicated that. My move tool is still selected, so I'll make sure I'm hovered over one of the numbers here and just click and drag this down. And now we have a second phone number. Grab my text tool and just change this to the second fictitious set of numbers. Grab my move tool again and make sure I'm clicked on the numbers themselves. And then I'll type in my email. So I'll just do info, and this is completely made up. info@geotech.com or .co, whatever. Grab my move tool and align this to the grid. And then I'll grab my text tool one last time and go ahead and type the name of our fictitious website. Select this, change the font back to Nexa Bold because I do want the website to be bold, and then we can go ahead and move this into place. Now you'll notice I left some gaps here in between the different types of text, and that's because I do want to add a little divider in between these. So I'll grab my paths tool and grab a guide from the left side here and just kind of set it right here. And I'm going to draw my path so that they align with this guide, and then I'll go ahead and bring another guide in here and then another guide. And I'm just going to draw my paths to align with these guides. Now once I've created these guides, I'll create a new layer and I'll name this divider. And make sure the fill width is set to transparency. Click OK. And now we have a new layer here at the top of our layers panel. Then I'll make sure I have my paths tool here, and I'll just click to create a node where these guides intersect right here, and then I'll click to create the second node where these guides intersect. Then I'll come over here to stroke path, and whatever my foreground color is what my path is going to be stroked as. And so I just have this set to black. So I'll choose solid color as the stroke, and I'll make sure the line width is set to 1, and I'll click stroke. And I'll grab another tool, and if we move this guide out of the way, you'll see that now we have a 1 pixel divider line right here. You can either draw the second line using that same method, or you can just click on this divider layer and hit the duplicate icon, and that'll duplicate our divider layer. And then with the move tool selected, click and drag this divider layer down, and I'll just release. And I'll use my arrows to finish aligning this to make sure that it's aligned within the guides here. Alright, so now it's aligned where we want it. And you'll notice that these layers are actually pretty huge, even though it's just a small divider line that's in there. So I'm going to click on each one of these layers and go to Layer, Crop to Content, and that'll shrink that layer down to the size of the guide. And I'll do the same here. Layer, Crop to Content. And we can click on this email here and just make sure that this is aligned in the center of these guides we created, or these dividers we created. Now what I want to do is bring in those icons that I have in the original composition here. And I got these on Icon Finder for free. So I'll click on my browser here, come over to iconfinder.com and type in phone. And I'll choose free for my price, so I'm not paying for any of these. Click on this phone icon. This is the one I chose originally. And I'll set this to 47 by 48 and then just click download PNG. And then I'll come down here, and here is a related icon for the email. And again, I'll choose 48 and click download PNG. And then I can click on this and go to show in folder. And now we have our icons right here. And just right click on both of these and go to open with and choose GIMP. And now both of our icons are opened into GIMP. So I'll come over here to our phone icon and go to Edit, Copy, and then come over here and hit Control V, and that'll paste this onto a floating selection layer. Click on that and then just click to create a new layer. And now we have our phone icon in here. And I'll just move this so that it's even with this guide, and then I'll bring down another guide and just make sure that this is aligned with the top of our fake phone number here. And then I'll click on my phone icon and use the arrow keys to move this up. And then I'll come over here to our email icon and go to Edit, Copy. Come over here to our business card composition and go to Edit, Paste. And then again, click on this floating selection layer and click the Create a New Layer icon. I'm going to double click and name this email icon, and then double click and name this phone icon to make this easier to keep track of. So I'll click back on my email icon layer, and with my move tool go ahead and drag this down, and this time I want this to be centered within these dividers here. And so now that we have everything aligned in here, the last thing I want to do is create those little designs I had at the bottom here, and you can see them in here in our original design. And so I'll come over to our business card composition, and I'll click and drag one last guide and just align this about here so it's a little off the bottom. Create a new layer and name this bottom Design 1 and click OK. And now what I want to do is come back to our original logo here and grab our color picker tool and just click on one of these oranges here because I want to use that orange for one of the rectangles. And then I'm going to click on our foreground color and copy this HTML notation and click OK. And then come over here, back to our business card composition, make sure I'm on this bottom design layer, and grab my rectangle tool, and then I'm just going to click and drag so that this rectangle is aligned with our top guide there. And I'm going to drag this to about halfway between where this diagonal cuts through right here and the end of our business card. So I just eyeballed that. And then I'll grab my bucket fill tool, and if you don't have this orange selected, make sure you paste the HTML notation in here. But then I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with orange. And now what I want to do is fill the last part in with blue. So I'll create a new layer, and this will be bottom design 2, and click OK. And then I'll come over to our original composition, and this is actually the one we want right here. And I will unhide the background layer, grab my color picker tool, and choose this lighter blue here. And make sure you're on that background layer or it won't work. And then you can copy this HTML notation. And so here I am back on my original composition, and I'm on this bottom design 2 layer. So go ahead and hit Z on your keyboard and zoom in here to this area where we want to draw our rectangle. And grab your rectangle select tool, click on that original rectangle we drew, and you can just really extend this to the end here. And then grab our bucket fill tool and fill this in with that blue. And go to select none. And then move this bottom designs 2 layer below the bottom designs 1 layer. And by the way, you can increase this if you want to be able to more easily read the names of your layers. And so I'll grab my zoom tool and hold Control and zoom out. Alright, so now you can see we have our design here, but it doesn't stop at this diagonal right now. And so what I'll do is I'll create a new layer group and name this bottom designs. And I'll drag both of these layers into this layer group and make sure the layer order, the stacking order, is the same. So the orange layer is on the top and the blue layer is on the bottom. And then come back up here to our bottom designs layer, right click and go to Add Layer Mask and choose white full opacity and click Add. And then grab your free select tool or your lasso tool again and come up here to the top of this triangle and click, and then hold Control to make sure you have that same angle we drew before, and just draw it all the way through, and then click to create a node off the canvas, and then just create your last 2 nodes, and then hit the Enter key to create a selection area. And then with that layer mask selected, grab your bucket fill tool, choose black as your color, and then fill in that selection area with that black. And now you'll see that we've hidden the part where the triangle here cuts off that orange shape we drew. So you can go to Select None. Then if you want to hide your guides, go to View, Show Guides, and now all of our guides are hidden. And now you can export this as whatever file type you want. So I'll go to File, Export As. So go ahead and change the name of your file to whatever you want. And then choose Select File Type by extension. And usually they like it when you save this as a PDF for printing business cards. So I'll just click on Portable Document Format and hit Export, and then just hit Export again. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. If you liked it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/daviesmediadesign. You can also visit our website at daviesmediadesign.com/tutorials, and you can enroll in our GIMP photo editing course from beginner to pro photo retoucher on Udemy. I'll include a link to that as well as links to our social media accounts and all the links used in this tutorial in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.